Thanks for joining to this workshop on how to make your dApp compatible with account abstraction on zkSync era. So very short intro on ourselves. So my name is Antoine. I'm ecosystem lead at Argent. I will first make a presentation of kind of a recap of account abstraction, why we need recap account abstraction, why it's important on zkSync era as well. And then go through a few use cases that are already implemented so that you understand actually how it can already work. And then Axel, who's blockchain engineer at Argent, will actually dive a bit deeper into how to effectively make your dApp compatible, what are the different things you have to be careful with, and then also a short demo of, I would say, one of the most obvious use cases of account abstraction, which is multi-core. So basically, when it comes to account abstraction, the main, the obvious question is how come there is still no full account abstraction on Ethereum layer 1, right? And the reason for that, there are three main reasons. The first one is that Ethereum is very expensive. It's expensive to initiate a transaction. It's even more expensive to do so with a smart account, because a smart account is a smart contract. So you can basically code any kind of logic on your account, which makes it more expensive. And so that's kind of a barrier to entry. It's difficult now. It's basically undoable during a bull market, using a smart contract as account. Then also on the Ethereum, only EOAs can initiate transactions. So you might know that at the onset of Ethereum, it was deemed that basically externally owned accounts would belong to end users, hence externally owned accounts, and so they would need to initiate transactions, while smart accounts would belong to projects, to protocols, and so they don't have need for to initiate a transaction. And that's of course an issue when it comes to having smart accounts. And then finally, while smart accounts are second-class citizens on Ethereum, and I see we have one more participant, welcome. So smart accounts are second-class citizens on Ethereum. Why? Because many dApps are still not compatible with account abstraction, and also there is a usage issue, meaning that dApps need to build their UX and their UI for smart accounts, and because the capabilities of smart accounts are different from the capabilities from EOAs, the UI will be different, and so that's a big barrier to adoption. Now, some very smart people have found quite a few solutions to this. The first one is, of course, to tackle the Ethereum is expensive issue, simply that we can go to layer 2s and use layer 2s. That's more scalable. You all know that it's much cheaper. But then there is also a kind of a solution for these issues that only EOAs can initiate transaction on Ethereum, and that's called ERC4337 and the introduction of bundlers. It's not a ideal solution, is a workaround. It's kind of, makes it work. You can make as if you are initiating a transaction with a smart account. It's kind of a simulation actually of a transaction, and then the bundler will pick up that simulation and will initiate a transaction on your behalf. So it's not perfect. It's not at protocol level, but it kind of works. But then we also have a last issue that is not solved. So on layer 2s, most layer 2s at least, smart accounts are still second-class citizens. dApps don't build for smart accounts because you still have to build two different experiences. And that's why native account abstraction is very important. And that's why having native account abstraction on zkSync era makes a difference, because zkSync era, it's a layer 2, it's much cheaper. But then also EOAs and smart accounts can initiate transactions on zkSync era, right? So it's inspired by ERC4337. It's not really ERC4337. It's at the protocol level. So it's completely native. It's embedded in the blockchain. So it even works better. And then that also makes smart accounts first-class citizens. So the transactions, whether they come from an EOA or they come from a smart account, they will all follow the same path, and dApps basically can build a very similar UI and UX for these two types of accounts. So that's why it's very important to have smart accounts basically on zkSync era, and why native account abstraction is going to make the difference. Then I just want to go through a few examples of existing implementations of account abstractions, just really to show that it's not just some kind of new narrative, that we might implement in 5 or 10 years. That's something that is happening already, and that people and projects and dApps are working on implementing these use cases. The first one is social recovery. That's at the level of basically of the wallets, and that's something that Argent has implemented on Ethereum already, and that we will bring to layer 2s. So very simply, there is this example of losing your credit card. When that happens, you simply call your bank, you freeze the credit card, and you get a new one, right? And that's the kind of experience you want to bring to your accounts, of course, without the bank, and of course, remaining completely self-custodial. But we are convinced that having to manage a seed phrase is a huge burden. It's really too heavy on the end user to reach mass adoption. And so that's what we do here. You don't have a seed phrase anymore. If you need to recover your account in some way, you can use what we call guardians. That can be a phone number, that can be an email address, that can be friends and family, that can be a company that is specialized in being a guardian, or that can simply be a hardware wallet that you would have on the side, and that you can use to recover your account. What is important to say here is that guardians don't have control over your assets. They don't have control over your account. They can't do anything besides helping you recover your account when you have triggered that solution. So that's a first example. Here, this is Argent Shield, which is a product we have on Starknet, and that's basically a two-factor authentication system. So we still have a seed phrase, but you can protect your seed phrase with this second-factor authentication, meaning that if someone gets your seed phrase, they still don't have access to your funds, they still don't have access to your account, because they don't have that second-factor authentication. Then there is, of course, the very well-known example of multi-call. And the one we usually use here is basically, I would say that the issue that multi-call is solving is that in Web3, when a user does an action, that action is very often reflected in the blockchain in 2, 3, or 4 different steps and different actions. And so that's several basically transactions that you need to approve, while from a user perspective, it's only one action. So when you on Uniswap, you want to swap some ETH for DAI, you basically, that's only doing one thing, right, from a user perspective, but actually you have to do physically 2 things, which is first allowing the Uniswap protocol to use your ETH, and then swapping. With multi-call, you batch all these 2 transactions together, and you basically only have one button, and your swap happens just in one transaction from the user perspective. So that's of course much better. What is important to say here is that with multi-call, you can also only approve the exact amount of token that you want to swap. So no need for infinite approvals anymore. That is much better from a security perspective. So in this example here, the user will only approve the protocol to use 6 USDC, and it's all done in one action as well. So next time the user comes, there is also only one button, and if the amount here is different, very easily it will be approved in the bunch in the multi-call. And this is another example I love, which is a bit different. Is Aspect. So this is a NFT marketplace, which really brings the users a very Web2-like online shopping experience, right? So you can purchase different NFTs from different collections all at once in one transaction. They just all come, you have a cart that's very Web2 shopping experience, and you simply buy from one button all your NFTs at once. Then, yeah, this is another use case that is we are helping a game called Influence develop, which is session keys. So I don't know if you have played fully on-chain games already, but it's basically a bad UX. It's not immersive at all, because every action you will do on game, it needs to be reflected on-chain, right? So whether it is purchasing a very expensive NFT, or simply changing the name of your character, or opening a loot box, all these actions will need to be reflected on chain, and so we'll need to be we'll request, I would say, one transaction each. While with session keys, at the beginning of your gaming session, you will sign a key for a limited period of time, and within this key, you will have you will have a set of pre-approved transactions that your account will be able to automatically approve. So here, for instance, in this session key, we have, scanning an asteroid that's automatically approved by your account. You don't need to physically approve the transaction. Setting a name to your asteroids, building something here, constructing a site, that's all done automatically by the account. So much better from a gaming perspective. And then maybe last example, the paymaster example. This is Goal 3, which is a sports betting protocol on zkSync. And so what they did is that they enabled gasless betting, right? So users can now bet without paying for gas. So we completely abstract the idea of gas away from the user, meaning that actually your user base is not only, Web3 savvy people and power users, but you could actually address other people who have no clue about Web3 and who simply want to bet on sports. And so with the paymaster, the user doesn't need to pay for the gas fee, and it's actually the paymaster, so the protocol, the project that will sponsorize, that will subsidize the gas fee. You could also use a paymaster to enable users to pay for gas in a non-native token, so no need to have ETH in your wallet. You could have any other kind of token, DAI, USDC, and pay your transaction with that, which is, of course, so much easier. So I just want to finish off this first part here with that sentence, which I believe is very important. So account abstraction combines Web3 magic and Web2 UX. And that's, of course, very important because we want to bring, this next billion users everybody's talking about, and we won't do it if we can't offer and provide these users with an experience that is at least as good as the experience they have on Web2. It's an experience that has been polished for years. People are used to it. They know how it works. And that's how we will bridge these users to Web3 projects and Web3 experiences. So now I will give the floor to Axel, who will actually get into the demo, into the code of, and it's this one, of how to make your dApp compatible, how to make sure that your dApp is compatible with account abstraction and with smart accounts on zkSync.
Yeah, thanks, Antoine. First, hi to Sinaver and Kartikeyan. This is a small workshop, so we said don't hesitate to make it interactive, ask questions if there's something you don't understand. Maybe first, regarding to all what Antoine said, was it all crystal clear? There's some things that kind of went over your head.
Yes, I have some questions about the paymaster.
Sure.
Well, from what I understood, the paymaster can be a custom paymaster. You made it yourself, no? It's a contract, or it's embedded in the chain, and you have to send it some ETH or some tokens to pay for the user.
So you can paymasters are smart contracts. They can be developed either by a dApp that has some custom need and wants to pay for their users' transactions or something like that, or they can be just once the paymaster is deployed, it can be used as a general paymaster if you have like one for paying fees in USDC or any kind of other token. Any dApp can just specify this transaction is going to use that paymaster. Even the wallet could say this is a dApp sending a regular transaction, but as a user, I just want to pay the fees in this other paymaster, so I'm going to override the paymaster there. Does that answer your question?
Yes and no, because in zkSync documentation, there is a part in the testnet that says we have implemented a paymaster for ERC20 tokens, and that's something that won't exist in the mainnet, I assume.
Yeah, because on mainnet, I mean, someone would have to do it and maintain it. We have with Argent, we have some discussions internally with 1inch who have plans to do a token paymaster, and and like as a business, as in collecting some fees in the process and giving that service. But of course, someone has to do it. What Era and zkSync propose is like the framework for building those paymasters and having people do them, but they don't have a default paymaster because there's lots of considerations regarding decentralization, who takes care of it, where fees go and stuff like that, that it's better to have it left off to the community, if you want.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. I have a question in the chat here. You need to know how the 2FA is used with Argent. You don't need to know, depending on what's your goal. If what you're developing is a dApp, you don't need to know about this at all, and we'll get into the demo later for what you need to know. But no, that's really a wallet feature. Just out of curiosity, what's your experience in smart contract development or dApp development? If anyone wants to answer.
Okay, I started writing smart contracts 1.5 years ago, and I'm mainly doing hackathons. I participated in Algorand hackathons. I win intermediate level in the last Algorand hackathon. I made the WAGMI connector for Argent.
Oh, that was you. Thank you. That was useful.
Okay.
We're using it, and we're gonna include that as part of another release. Thank you very much. So you got the prize.
Yes, I got it. Mainly use Solidity, and the other one is PyTeal, some kind of similar language for writing smart contracts.
Is that the language on Algorand, as you said, or
yes,
is it...
yes. On Algorand, it's called PTeal. It's a Python. It's a Python binding for teal, which is like Solidity bytecode.
Okay. Okay, interesting. Are you affiliated with any name in the space or independent?
Yeah, totally independent right now.
Okay. Okay, cool.
And that's it.
Nice. No, that's good to know, because we may get into some more technical aspects going on. Oh, Karchenka, you want some bounties at East Global? Nice. I want some too, actually. Yeah, that's a pretty good hackathon. Which one did you win? Can answer in the chat later if you can. Is it the scaling Ethereum? Oh, there was another one before, I guess, on autonomous worlds and stuff. Okay. Cool. We have Song 3 joining the chat. Let's say hello. Oh, Filecoin. Okay. Hi, Song 3. We're doing a small workshop. If you have any questions or want to interject, you can. We're gonna go into the first part of the demo. So it's a demo with, screen sharing is disabled at Albi. I think you have to make me the host or something. Or maybe it's Antoine.
Yeah, maybe it's me. Let me check.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a workshop we've already done that we're rehearsing. I mean, doing again for the hackathon, if we can give you ideas or...
Yeah, I should be able to share.
Yeah. So we have kind of two different sections in this demo. First one is around if you're developing dApps, okay, someone left, no worries. So when you're developing dApps, there's a few things you have to know to be compatible with smart contract accounts. There's a few differences, but not that much, especially on zkSync Era. We made a documentation website here called docs.argent.xyz. There's a section on account abstraction compatibility. And the biggest thing is regarding validation of signatures. If you're at any point in your dApp You get a signature, you want to verify it's true. The biggest difference is instead of doing directly calling EC recover to get the address that it's included in the signature and checking it against something, you have to do that through a library, through a wrapper that will handle the validation differently for smart contract accounts. The reason is the smart accounts could have custom logic for validating transactions. They could be some kind of a multi-sig. They could have custom rules for handling of accounts. Typically, what you want to do as an account is either add more restrictions to the account to make it more secure, or relax some of these restrictions to improve user experience in situations where security doesn't matter as much, maybe like in games, or if you want to open sessions and things like that. So the change is described here. I can do it in code to give an example, give you a bit of an idea of the change that it is. Here, I have a contract that does a signature verification. Here, there's a validate signature method, and it typically does an EC recover. It takes a signature, takes a hash of a message, and it's checking that the address that's recovered from the signature is a given address that's hard-coded in the contract. The issue is if this wouldn't work with Argent account, with a safe account, or on a kind of account, because, for example, there could be many signatures in a signatures field. So hopefully OpenZeppelin did release a library that helps with that. We can just import it. Like this, and what do you do? I think I removed, I think I went too far. Okay, never mind. So I went to the edited version here. Well, what I'm doing is I'm importing this signature checker library. I'm using it, adding this line here, and the changes here. I'm calling this is valid signature now on the address, which means it calls it on the account. That's part of something called EAP 1271, and that's the recommended way to check for signatures. So I think if you can look at the diff, that's basically the change. I removed my custom checking. Well, although to be fair, this is kind of old code. Maybe you didn't do this before. Maybe what you did before here was something like ECDSA dot check signature, maybe something like that. So the diff wouldn't be as big, but it's still a different OpenZeppelin method. You're using this signature checker instead of the ECDSA object. So that's the biggest change. There's a few others. Any questions on that? Basic, nothing too complicated. Also avoid tx.origin. That's not recommended for use, maybe removed in future versions of the EVM anyway, and it makes things more complicated for smart accounts. So that's basic account abstraction and compatibility. We have a demo on multi-calls. Have this website here where that's made specifically for the demo. It's basically a dApp where you can add liquidity to a pool. It's on testnet. It's with fake tokens, but I'm going to show it first with MetaMask. Logged in, that's my address. I have some DAI and USDC, and I have an action here to pool both one DAI and one USDC into this fake liquidity pool. And in order to do that, regular EVM, the problem is first I have to approve this DAI and this USDC. So if I do it now, we'll see that it results in 3 transactions. First, MetaMask pops up, asks me for approval of DAI. So they improved on this. Usually the default used to be infinite, but now I'm going to specify 1. Approve the transaction. And hopefully with network conditions, it's going to go through. Second time with USDC. I'm gonna wait. And again, usually I agree there's an UX that tells you that how things are happening, but this is just a demo. Now I'm doing the actual transaction, which is gonna take one DAI from here and one USDC. And yeah, that's the end of the flow. I have 3 transactions here, and that's how it's done in MetaMask. Now I'm gonna do it again with Argent. So our Era account is on mobile. So if I log in with Argent, I get a QR code to scan with my phone. I don't have a dev phone, so what I'm gonna use instead is a terminal wallet that's gonna scan my screen for the QR code. So it's a wallet, but it's a dev wallet instead of using a phone. So what I'm doing here, I'm scanning the screen and I'm capturing this QR code here. It's asking me if I want to connect. I'm gonna say yes, as if I was with my phone. And okay, now I'm connected. I have some balance. That's okay. And doing the same thing, getting these requests. I approve it on the phone. And yeah, basically all 3 transactions were done in one. We have just one transaction here, which contained the 2 approves and the final add liquidity transaction. It's it's documented here in the multi-part section. It's one dependency to add to a project. It's only for Era, but if your dApp is on Era, you can improve the user experience for Argent users like this, and it's backwards compatible with non-Argent accounts for sure. So if you use this SDK, it's gonna check if the account that's connected to your dApp does support this functionality, because it's a functionality that's coded in the smart account. If it does not, it will revert to the MetaMask way of doing things with three transactions in a row. That's the documentation. You can check it out if you're interested on docs.argent.xyz. And
is there any limitation in the call? I mean, a number of transactions or kind of transactions, or it can be anything.
So there are some technical limitations. In terms of number of transactions, not really that you'll be limited by the block size or and by gas at some point. So you could probably put it. I don't know how much you could put into a single call. And kinds of transactions, not really. There's some limitations on you will not be able to call the account itself for security reasons, but it's probably not something you want to do anyway. But yeah, otherwise any kind of other contract or dApp you can call. Yeah.
Okay, is there some security in the multi-call? I mean, maybe some attacker will want to call a contract which call another contract for an infinite loop, or there is just a gas limit.
The call is re-entrant, so it cannot like re-enter the multi-call endpoint. But I mean, there's no difference than calling a contract with an infinite loop from an UA. You could do it all. It would have the same result, and from that point of view, there's no difference.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That's the demo. Do we have anything else, Antoine, or does anyone else have any questions?
No, I mean, in terms of content, that's it. I mean, it's clear that getting a dApp compatible is pretty easy. If anyone has other questions, please feel free.
Yeah. Hey guys, I have a generic question. So what I see what's happening these days is that wallet which want to support different networks, right? It would just add a different, like list of accounts, right? And then you have a different security properties, like a control for every account per network, right? But what do you think will happen in future? Like from my user experience, it's a bit weird that I have to, change different guardians and, for per account, right? Rather than have one set of security configuration for all the accounts, etc. So this is more like a generic question, and like where are we moving forward?
The way I understand is, and let me know if that's not your point, but is that with account abstraction, it gets much harder to have the same address on multiple networks? Is it related to that?
I think this is a technical question which will probably solve one day. My question was more from the user experience, right? So like even I think in Argent, if I log in, right, and there's a different account, zk, let's say zk era, starknet, and so on. And then for every account, I typically will configure separate guardian properties and so on, right?
Yep.
But typically I don't want to do that, right? And if one of the signing account is hacked, right, it means that I'll have to change, like the signing account for all the accounts. So this was my thought. What are you guys thinking about this?
Yeah, that's it's one of the big problems with the whole multi-chain approach. So you could think of it in many ways. Either you think, like, if we reach mass adoption, users won't be hopping from chain to chain anyway, and they'll likely have a main account. Like today, you have your main bank account, and you don't really have 7 different bank accounts, except you're doing something weird. And in that case, even if you have smaller accounts elsewhere, the security recovery there wouldn't matter as much. Technically, if you're like on purely EVM compatible chains, you may be able to do a recovery, trigger it on all the chains where you have accounts at the same time. It could be tricky, but you could probably still do it by signing all the transactions and sending them when possible. It's not, yeah, it's not pretty. If you want to think philosophically, I think ideally what users would like is have one super app where they do all these things and they don't think about chains. The same way that whenever you send money or something, you don't really think about it. Does it go through IBAN, through SWIFT, to something else? That's like a technical protocol detail, but it's not. Ideally, things will be bridged and interconnected well enough that it wouldn't matter, and you ideally, what you want, you'd want to have your funds in a single secure place like a vault, and sometimes send some on a small Revolut account, for example, for your expenses during trips and stuff like that. But technically, in some cases, you can't even solve it in some chains where you won't be able to have the same address on all these chains. There's some noise.
Axel,
I think it's, yeah.
As a host, you can mute.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute you, Asa Santa. Sorry. So yeah, I was saying, in, like, for example, I think what you're referring to is that on 4337, if you deploy the same account to multiple chains that support it, you do have the same address. But with an account on Era, which uses a different account, you're not gonna be able to have the same address anyway. So you're not gonna be able to do it automatically there. Same thing on Starknet. So maybe it's not even a question. That's my rambling on it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a right answer. So this was more like what you guys are saying. But I think from what you said, that realistically users are not going to use all the networks, and then obviously you want to kind of abstract as much as possible. But at the end of the day, it's more about this kind of cross-chain operations, which will, like, as IBAN or SWIFT will just will just facilitate simplification, right, of sending different values between different tokens.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Well, sorry, but Sami there, I think Axel wants to tell you that we don't want users to remember their bank accounts. Do you remember your IBAN? No. In the future, no one will know their address. They will just know they have their phone and they pay with their phone. It's a goal to simplify all things so that they don't care what about that.
Yeah, they may still remember a username like an ENS or something like this.
Yes, a username, yes, you remember your name, yes, but you don't remember your address is OX270. No, it's nonsense. From a low-level user, I mean.
Yeah, that's for sure. But in everyday life, you still interact sometimes with IDs. Like whenever you want to get paid, you have to share your IBAN at some point. So it has to be, it probably still exists, you know, but it shouldn't be the main.
Yes, it will exist, but I don't have to remember my ID number every day. I will look at it when I need it, and that's all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I guess the issue here is more like having the same IBAN across different banks, which comes from the fact that on Ethereum, you store your funds in your private key, which is a big mistake, we think, or a big conflation that causes issues. But yeah, basically to say that it's probably, it may not be a good solution to have the same address on all different chains. I may be wrong because it's convenient if you use different DeFi apps. Today, that's how we use blockchains and jump from one protocol to the next according to the trends and memes. But that's I think that's a very niche and very not a thing that normal people do really in everyday life.
Yeah.
Do we
Axel,
have more questions?
Yeah, we have a few questions in the chat.
Oh.
Is the code for the demo app available on GitHub somewhere?
It's not yet, but I can release it. Where would you want to go and see it? Albi, is there a place I could share the link?
Yes. If you can share it on the chat here, I can then take it over to the.
I don't have it yet. I'd have to publish it, but afterwards.
Okay. Yes, I can share it. If you can share it with me later, then I can kind of put it also on Biddlebox.
Yeah, Gecko, if you want to share some nickname or some email where I could share it to you directly. Oh no, it was, sorry, Nicolas Villeneuve. Will this feature only work on Argent wallets? Today, in practice, yes, it's made so the interface is generic, so other wallets could implement it. But if any user doesn't have, his account doesn't have this feature, if it's an EOA, it will fall back. So it's not like your dApp will be usable only by Argent wallets. You can set a filter to allow block certain users to use. What do you mean? In an account, you want to add a, wait, no, in a dApp. I'm not sure what you mean by your question, Scarty.
It's maybe he's referring Paymaster. I don't know.
Oh, for paymasters, yeah, for signature-based paymasters, they could absolutely. Now you mean in Argent? Wallet to allow block user to access any dApp. Oh, like you want to shut down your account so it's solely a vault, like a storage place that's not gonna have any smart contract interactions. Is that what you mean? Yeah, that's definitely possible. Yeah, it's not today in our L2 accounts, but what we're looking at pretty closely is an EIP for smart accounts. I think it's the EIP 6900, which defines a plugin system for accounts which would allow different smart accounts to be compatible, and people come from outside and develop plugins to add feature or restrict functionality on accounts. So this could be one way you do it. You basically, in the validation rules of your account, you'd forbid everything except ERC20 transfers, I guess, and that's it. Yeah. So that's gonna come, not available today, but it's gonna be possible.
Any other question? Is multisig possible? Yeah, multisig is actually possible.
Two answers on EVM chains. Gnosis Safe is the multi-sig leader, so they're very good at what they do. We're not looking to compete with them. On Starknet, there is no multi-sig, so we are in the process of developing a multi-sig account there. Cool.
Well, I guess that those were the questions.
Yeah,
I feel like people want to. Okay, great then. Thank you, Anthony and Axel, for coming for this workshop. Really appreciate it. Yes, so for anyone who has questions, Axel and Anthony is like always available for helping hackers to resolve their issues or any questions that you might have. But yes, the hackathon is coming to not to the end, but it's like you have time until July 17 to submit the projects. So yes, I feel like it's the right time to reach out, share your ideas, share your issues in case you want to kind of change something. But yeah, have a great day, you all, and week, and let's chat again.
Sorry. Can you put the terminal wallet somewhere? It will be very useful. I'm a little bit frustrated with Argent test wallet. It takes some time forever.
Oh, is it because of the wallet connects?
Yeah, the wallet connects sometimes.
Yeah, we discussed that. We can. It's a bit of work because there's some configure private keys and things that need to be cleaned up. But yeah, okay. If there's demand, we can plan it. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting tool. Thanks for the suggestion. I'll write it down.
Thank you.
Well, have a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Have a good day.
Bye.